Good morning everyone, welcome back to the session on fundamentals of computers. We were discussing about operating systems in the last few sessions, and in the yesterday's class we stopped here where we discussed about command line interpretation. We'll just have a look at what it is. It is just a set of commands that help the user to interact with the operating system. Generally these command line interpretation can be, or the command interpretation can be in two ways. One is command line interface, the other one is graphical user interface. In command line interface, you have to manually type in the commands, whatever the command should be given to the computer by the user. Whereas in the graphical user interface, you know what graphical user interface is. These are the icons. Suppose if I want to open this PowerPoint, I don't have to give a command, just I have to double tap on it and I have to just go to this operating system. If I double click on that icon, then that icon, whatever gesture it's there, like double clicking, it will send a command to the operating system, and that operating system will load with the required task or process that needs to be done. Over here, what was the process? When I double click on that operating system PPT, it has to load the file that is required for us. Okay, and then we were discussing about the command line interface. In this, we have this command line interface as we can give it through commands or we can give it through graphical user interface. Okay, and then the next topics that is left, only one more topic is left in the operating systems concepts, that is OS capability enhancement software. How will you enhance the capabilities of your operating system? Perform several tasks of routine nature frequently needed by users but are not provided as part of the OS. Generally, the operating system doesn't give all the required functionalities or whatever additional functionalities that are required for the user. So that is why we get so many different updates in the operating system which help us or which enhance the capabilities of the software, either through security or for the performance. We get so many updates which help the drivers or the operating system programs to function better and to upgrade themselves so that the user gets the best experience every time. And then they are primarily grouped into three categories. One is translating programs, the other one is library programs, and the other one is utility programs. We will see what translating programs are. Translate a source program into an object program. And then library programs consist of frequently used functions and operations. And then utility programs assist users with system maintenance tasks such as disk formatting, data compression, data backups, antivirus, utilities, etc. So I would like to go back to one slide so that you will understand. Okay, what was the operating system doing? Generally, operating system is managing the file system, it's managing the process management, it's managing the memory, all the three it's managing. So, and along with that, security and command line, right? So what is the operating system providing? It's only providing us these things that are the operating system. Just a minute. The operating system is only providing us with these functionalities that are process management, memory management, file management, security and command interpretation. But along with this, whenever you want some whenever you want to have some additional features, or when you want to have something other than this to be done by the user so that it becomes easy for you while operating, like whenever you want to search for something and you need not go into the file structure or the file directories and search manually. Instead, you can directly have an option which will help you to search for the files. All those things come under your operating system enhancing capabilities. Okay, so that these operating system enhancing capabilities, they help you to have some add-ons which will make your user experience better. Okay, so what are those add-ons that we have, or the additional features that we have with the operating system other than the core concepts? That is translating programs, translating the source program into an object program, and then library files consists of frequently used functions and operations. Whenever you are using some files or programs and when you go back and search for them, or when you see in the recent section in your operating system, you will find them so that you can quickly access them whenever you want. As they are the recent ones, we might have we might be using them, or might have some use with it in the later stages. So that's why all the frequently used applications and programs, they are listed out in a separate section so that the user can quickly go and access them. And then the utility programs assist users with with system maintenance tasks such as disk formatting, data compression, data backups, and antivirus utilities. So if you see here, you have the storage device. The secondary storage consists of different drives in your computer. If you want to format only a specific disk in your computer, that is not a part of your main operations of your operating system. So operating system is providing you to format only a particular part of your hard disk or your secondary storage, and this can be considered as an OS capability. And so that is how these programs help us to enhance the capability of your operating system. And then now we are going to look into the last part of your operating system, that is the different types of operating systems that we have. What are the different types of operating systems that we have in generally? It all started with the Unix operating system. It was developed in the early 1970s at Bell Laboratories by Ken Thompson and Dennis Ritchie. Dennis Ritchie is a person who is very famous in the computer industry, and he created several programming languages like C programming. And then this Unix operating system is written in C, high level programming language, hence highly portable. This is the person who has created this C programming language, and they use this C programming language to create the Unix operating system. And then it is a multi-user operating system, the Unix operating system, and it's time sharing operating system. Before understanding time sharing previously, when you heard this term, it was like somewhat like a puzzle question for you, because we didn't understand what time sharing was exactly. But now when you see this multi-user term and this time sharing operating system, you'll understand what capabilities the Unix operating system has. And then used on a wide variety of computers ranging from notebook computers to supercomputers. It can be used on any kind of computer, like the basic notebook kind of a laptop kind of computer, to the supercomputers. And then especially prevalent on RISC workstations such as those from Sun Microsystems, HP, IBM, and Silicon Graphics. Okay, so RISC is a type of instruction set which is having RISC means reduced instruction set for your computers. Okay, so this reduced instruction set, in the sense it doesn't have all the programs or all the instructions available in that, but only those required by the computer, and which are the main programs that are required for the functioning of the computer. We have generally two kinds of instruction sets, one is RISC and the other one is CISC. CISC is complex instruction sets, and this is reduced instruction set. Okay, then this Unix operating system is structured in three layers. One is kernel, shell, and the utilities. So it has three layers, and in each layer it has these layers have their own functionalities, and the programs are assigned accordingly. Okay, and then MS-DOS. MS-DOS is the next operating system that was created by Microsoft. It stands for Microsoft Disk Operating System. Okay, it is a single user OS for IBM and IBM compatible personal computers, that is PC or PCs, and structured in three layers. In this you won't have a kernel, or you don't have that, you have an additional thing called BIOS, basic input output system. BIOS is something where all your operating system files are loaded, because whenever you are trying to turn on your system, initially there is a chip called BIOS chip, in which you have all your operating system files that are exclusively required for turning on your system. In order to turn on your system, there are certain programs that need to start up, right? So all those are separately there in the BIOS chip, and this basic input output system, this chip has the programs that are required for loading your computer. So that is why whenever you are starting your computer or whenever you are booting your computer, at that time the BIOS first loads. What does the BIOS contain? It contains the basic input output operations or the system files, which help you to turn on your system with the default settings that the operating system has, or whatever the user has customized. And then it has the kernel and the shell, just like the Unix operating system. It's very popular in the 1980s, now not in much use and development with the launch of Microsoft Windows operating system in 1990s. Microsoft in the 1980s it started with MS-DOS, and until early 2000s MS-DOS was very popular and people were highly using it. And then after in the early 2000s and so, even though it was started in 1990s, in the early 2000s and so, it started gaining popularity, Microsoft Windows, and from then onwards we are seeing the different versions of Microsoft Windows operating system. Then we have the Microsoft Windows, that is developed by Microsoft to overcome limitations of MS-DOS operating system. This is also single user operating system with multitasking OS. Native interface is a graphical user interface, that is it is not based on it supports shell command language or shell commands, but still by default you can see graphical user interface. Even if you want to perform operations on shell command, it is also possible with Microsoft. It has both graphical user interface as well as shell operations, and then designed to be not just an operating system but also a complete operating environment. Okay, and then OS of choice for most PCs after 1990. In the early 2000s it started gaining craze, and after that we have almost you see everywhere you have the Microsoft Windows operating system available. And then we have one more kind of an operating system in Windows, that is Microsoft Windows NT, multi-user time sharing operating system developed by Microsoft. Okay, in the NT format you have multi-user support, whereas in the early Microsoft Windows or the MS-DOS it was only single user. That is what you have to understand. And then designed to have Unix like features so that it can be used for powerful workstations, network and database servers. Okay, it is designed to have Unix like features so that it can be used for powerful workstations, network and database servers. The reason is multi-user. What do you mean by multi-user? Multiple people or multiple users will be able to access the CPU and its resources at the same time with the help of time sharing. Initially in Microsoft Windows or Microsoft MS-DOS, the Microsoft disk operating system, you are only having single user. Single user in the sense you will be only a single user will be able to operate and use the resources of the CPU. So that is the reason, in order to withstand the market and to give some competition to the Unix operating system, they created Windows NT, that is designed to have Unix like features. Unix has it is a multi-user system, that is why they created this multi-user system. In database servers, workstations, generally they require multi-user, so that is the reason it is having features like the Unix and it is giving some competition. So then it supports multi-programming and it is designed to take advantage of multi-processing on systems having multiple processors. You know what multi-programming is and what is the advantage that it has with multi-processing of multiple processors. Okay, then we have native interface is the graphical user interface. Microsoft Windows always focuses on the graphical user interface, and they always want to provide the user with some easy experience so that every user will be able to understand and use it at least with the basic functions. And then built-in networking and communication features provide strict system security, rich set of tools for software development. We all see how Windows is providing us with so many applications and software, so that we are all so much used to it that we cannot even shift to some other new kind of an some new kind of a software or program, right? So that is about Windows. And then after this Unix and this Microsoft Windows and all, we have something called Linux. What do you mean by Linux? Linux is an open source operating system enhanced and backed by thousands of programmers worldwide. Open source operating system, let's try to understand what this means. If it is not an open source operating system, then whatever source code that is there for that operating system, you won't be able to access it and you won't be able to make some changes that are required for your that operating system. Whereas in open source operating system or whatever open source program it is, the source code is available to the public, and whoever wants to make some modifications or whoever wants to understand what the code what the operating system is all about, they can have a copy of that operating system code and they can try to understand it. Whereas if you try to see the Microsoft Windows, have you ever tried, or it is not even possible if you try to find out the operating system Microsoft operating system source code, because source code is the main program that is used for the operations of the operating system. The operating system, all the files in the operating system have their own programs, and how are they all related and how is that all programmed is the source code. So, this source code is available in Linux as an in open source, which means anybody in the world will be able to access that Linux source code and they can understand it. So, that is the reason we have so many versions of Linux available, as there are so many kinds of people or communities working differently and they are trying to develop new operating systems based on Linux. And then Linux is also multiprocessing operating system originally designed to be used in PCs. The name Linux is derived from its inventor Linus Torvalds. Okay. And then we have several Linux distributions available, that are Red Hat, SUSE, and you have Kali Linux, you have Arch Linux, you have Debian, you have Fedora, and there are so many other kinds of Linux operating systems that you can find out. And then the difference in distribution is mostly set of tools, number and quality of applications, documentation, support and services. So, the difference in distribution in the sense, initially this Linux was designed by Linus Torvalds, right. So, after that, this whatever source code was available, whatever the source code that Linux operating system had, that was open source. That means anybody was able to see that source code, understand, and they can copy it and make their own operating system just like this Linux. That way people started doing it, and we have so many Linux as Red Hat and all, which I have just listed down. So, these Red Hat, Kali Linux, Arch Linux, these are known as distributions. If a new operating system is created from this open source code of Linux, then that is known as a distribution. Okay. So, the difference in the different versions of operating system or different types of Linux operating systems we had, it is only in the set of tools, number and quality of applications, documentation, support and service. It all depends only upon the internal features that operating system is providing. Other than that, it is having almost all the similar characteristics of this Linux operating system. Okay. And then, so these are the different types of operating systems that we have, and with this just a minute, with this will be we have okay. With this we have come to an end to the first unit. If you have any other doubts, you can just post it in the Q&A section and I will get back to them. Yesterday there was a question related to swap memory. Someone asked me about what do you mean by swap memory. So, let us discuss what swap memory is all about. In the yesterday morning session, I was discussing with you about, in the afternoon session I guess, I was discussing with you about virtual memory. Virtual memory is something that is created on the hard disk, just like your RAM, in order to help the RAM with additional memory so that it can process its applications. So, the same way there is the swap memory is also having its similar characteristics, but the swap memory has a little difference when you compare it with your virtual memory. So, you all understood now what virtual memory is, what primary or volatile memory is, right. So, your primary memory and your virtual memory. Your primary memory is always volatile, and also this virtual memory is helping your primary memory to have some additional processes being done if the RAM size is not that much. Okay. Now, you understood primary memory and volatile your virtual memory. Now, we are talking about swap memory. Swap memory is something that is created in the operating system at the installation process itself. Swap memory is similar to your virtual memory, there is no doubt in that, but the difference is that this virtual memory is created while this operating system starts performing its tasks and all with this help of CPU. Whereas, swap memory is created at the time of installation itself, but we do not find it on the computers, or we will not be able to understand from the outside that there is a partition created for it. But what happens in swap memory is when you are installing your operating system, it is not like turning on your operating system. When you are installing this operating system for the first time on your computer, At that time, with the installation files, there is one more partition that is, or one more file that is created in the hard disk for the RAM itself, that is known as swap memory. So what the swap memory does, how much size is, how much ever is the size of your RAM. Suppose we have a RAM of 2 GB for the computer and the operating system we are installing for the first time, then a swap memory is created with the same size as the RAM. Suppose the RAM is 2 GB, a swap memory file is created in your hard disk with the same 2 GB, and it is used whenever the RAM is out of memory. The swap memory helps it in this operations. Okay. So it's just similar to your virtual memory, but this is a fixed size and it's a fixed file that is helping you while performing many tasks in the operating system. Then one more thing is, your RAM and your or your primary memory, it's volatile, but this swap memory, it's not volatile. It's like it's storing on the hard disk, so whatever process it's performing or whatever data it's having, it's all being stored in that file. That file which is stored in your hard disk, which is helping your RAM, that is the swap memory. It is known as, you will find it like a page file. Okay, whatever data that you are getting from this file, or when you are performing the operations on the RAM, these files are stored in this page file on the hard disk. So in the previous years or in the past, we only had like 512 MB RAM, 1 GB RAM, or even lesser. At that point, if you wanted to have more operations done, this swap memory was helping us so much in performing these operations. So yesterday when I explained you about virtual memory, you must have had an idea about the difference between this primary memory or RAM and the virtual memory. Now there is something else that is known as swap memory, and this is about swap memory. Okay. So when you try to get into the functionalities of every individual unit, you will find even more terms, and if you find any such terms, you can just ask me and we will just discuss them in the class. And also, if you have any other doubts in the unit 1, you can get back to me. I guess the time is up for today, we only have little time, so we will try to just start the next unit, that is all about network, internet and all, in the next class. Before that, I will give you a small introduction about networking and all. Generally, if you have a computer, a PC, then it is an individual computer, right? So if you are connecting one more computer, and if you are trying to make these two computers talk, or if you are trying to make a transfer of data between these two computers which are side by side, then these two computers form a network. If there are more than one computers that are connected in a network, or when they are connected together, then it is called a network. So if you have some 5 or 6 computers, 3 on this side and 3 on this side, and these 6 computers are connected to each other, then these computers form a network. Whatever data is there, we are able to access them in between these 6 computers. So that is all about networking, and we will see what is a network, computer network, and then we will see about what is internet, how does the internet work, and who are the internet service providers, from where are we getting all this data. When you enter a website URL, what is that you are getting. There are so many interesting things that we will be discussing about, but we will start this topic in the afternoon class. Okay. So that is all for today. Thank you.